welcome to Captain Croll's movie review. Today I'm doing the movie review on SAS Red Notice, an action movie of 2021. Now, I'm just going to start by saying I saw the movie trailer for this past year, and I was very, very excited. The movie trailer made this movie look very good, fast-paced action, good cast, and very excited to purchase this movie when it became available for purchase. The bad news is the movie doesn't match the trailer. It truly doesn't. I'm going to give you my review on it. To give you a bit of a background on SAS Red Notice, it's based on a novel series by Andy McNabb, who is a former military specialist. He worked in the anti-terrorism units. He's a British fellow there, and he's written a series of books. And this is the first one in his series involving the protagonist, Tom Buckingham. Tom Buckingham in this movie is portrayed by Sam Heughan, who I really like as an actor to begin with. I love the TV show Outlander. It's very well done. Matter of fact, while I was watching Outlander, all the seasons, I said to myself, I bet you this guy could really be the next James Bond. And ironically enough, he is interested in playing that character. So when I saw the trailer for this movie, he's got short hair in it. He's a military specialist. He's a good guy. I thought, boy, this looks like a good one. Ruby Rose is also in the movie. She plays one of the main villains of the movie, as well as Andy Circus, who you'll know from Gollum and Lord of the Rings. He was in the Avengers movies as well, Black Panther. And he's kind of a in the middle bad guy. You know, he's kind of going between both sides. So let's get into the premise of this movie. So the premise of this movie is there's a family of paid professional terrorists called the Black Swans. And they're an American family. And what they do is they're contracted by various agencies, very covert black ops stuff. To give you an example, they'll go into a remote village in Europe and offer a certain amount of money to take it over to put a pipeline in. If people don't agree, then they'll kill them, basically. So what happens at this point is the Black Swans and what they do ends up getting exposed through social media, and they become now the most wanted group in the world. Essentially, the British government has been actually contracting them, but doesn't want anybody to know that. So they put a contract out on the Black Swans themselves. So then we're introduced to Tom Buckingham again, who's the main hero. He's part of the SAS anti-terrorism unit. And he's got kind of an unlikely background. He comes from an extremely wealthy Buckingham family. As a matter of fact, in the beginning, you end up seeing his estate, which makes him look like almost Bruce Wayne out of Batman, multi-million-dollar palace, kind of castle type scenario. And you wonder to yourself, okay, that's great. Why is he in the SAS? But anyways, whatever. He's in the SAS. I guess he enjoys it. And he goes through the motions of a takedown with his team. Again, not very realistic takedown, and there's some killing done, and immediately after the killing, he's joking about it, and just didn't seem very sincere to pay respect to SAS. SAS, for those that don't know, is an elite British military unit, one of the most elite units in the world. They're involved in many anti-terrorist takedowns and missions across the world, and very highly thought after. In this movie, they just look like clumsy soldiers. It just doesn't marry up to who they were. And again, it just makes me think Andy McNabb, who's got the creator of this series, has a really good military background, and he used to be in the anti-terrorism unit. So I'm wondering how much of a role he had actually in the screenplay of this movie. Having said that, we'll move along to Ruby Rose. She's one of the main villains, family members of the Black Swans. And again, I like Ruby Rose. I mean, she's a good actress to a certain degree, but she just doesn't fit this role. She doesn't look menacing, doesn't act menacing. You kind of in the back of your mind wonder where she gets all this elite military training. There's no indication she was ever a soldier. And it's a very cold family. The father's the leader. He even brags in there that he's never loved anyone. So he doesn't even care what happens to his own family, his son, his daughter, etc. It just seems a little over the top for me. What happens is the Black Swans eventually are taken out, except for a few, And the main character, Tom Buckingham, thinks now this is a good time to propose to my girlfriend, who's a nurse, and take the Eurostar train from London to Paris, which goes right under the English Channel. I didn't even know this Euro train existed until I saw this movie. So it's quite interesting seeing the train, etc. So what happens is trains go in midway under the English Channel, and of course the Black Swans just happen to be on the train. I'm not sure why they're not plotting an escape, because they're, Ruby Rose's pictures plastered over every British newspaper. But in any event, she uses some sort of disguise and gets on the train, and they stop the train midway and they take over the train, Die Hard style. And again, it's sort of like Die Hard on a train. The difference is the original Die Hards, and I'll preface the original ones, not the later ones, were actually really good movies. This didn't feel that way. To give you an example, there's a scene where a father and a daughter on the train. The father's executed in front of the daughter, and minutes later, the daughter's with the main hero, and she's kind of joking around and laughing like as if nothing ever happened. Pretty sure if your loved one was executed in front of you, you might have some traumatic experience from that. But we'll move past that. The action scenes themselves are okay. I've seen them all. You've seen them all before. The fight scenes and the takedown scenes, and again, it's the main character Tom Buckingham versus 20 terrorists or whatever. But what I found really clumsy was the tactics of of the main character, who's an SAS specialist. I mean, there was plenty of times he was going down these thin hallways in the train trestle, and there's terrorists everywhere, and he's got his arm extended fully out, like this, opposed to having it tucked in with his pistol, and going around corners, not necessarily cutting the pie, but instead putting himself right out there and becoming an easy target for the bad guys. There's also a scene where he saves somebody and they're laying on top of the train. Meanwhile, the terrorists are walking along below, on the walkways, and he's having a full loud conversation with the other person. I'm thinking, well, why are you talking? Like, if anything, shouldn't you be quiet? Because they're probably going to hear you down there. So it's just really sloppy in that way. I'm not giving anything away in the finale, but there's there's a maneuver they use through a gas pipeline, and to me, it just didn't seem. There's no way you could survive that. It just seemed very predictable. Predictable ending as well. And you don't really feel the building of the characters in this movie either. You don't feel that there's a real connection between the main protagonist, Tom Buckingham, and his soon-to-be fiance. There just doesn't seem to be any relationship or anything building off of that. You don't feel the same as you did in the original Die Hard, for example. You felt a connection between John McClane and Holly McClane. In this movie, you really don't see that connection. Let me talk about Andy Serkis. Andy Serkis portrays a role in this. He's kind of a dark military figure. He goes back and forth between good and bad. And I don't think his character was actually necessary. He's a great actor. I just think he was wasted in this movie. And again, watching a climatic fist-to-fist fight between Sam Heughan and Ruby Rose, it just didn't make sense for me. It didn't go with the flow there. And the movie does lead into a inevitable sequel. Has a bit of, not necessarily a cliffhanger, but it leads into, we have some unfinished business here. Unfortunately, I think due to this movie, I don't think anybody's interested in seeing the sequel unless it's 10 times better than this movie, because by the end of the movie, you just kind of go, wow, that was a forgettable movie. Forgettable villains, forgettable characters, and I just didn't feel the urgency, I guess you could say, when you're watching these action movies. Like you're on the edge of your seat. There was no edge of the seat moments on this, and you could almost predict the outcome of every single scene in this movie. Again, it's a terrible shame. I think Sam Heughan's a great actor. Actually, I think all of them are great actors. I just don't think they had the right material to work with here. I would be excited to see him as the next James Bond. He's my number one choice for that role. I just think he needs another opportunity to be in another action movie. And again, it's just one of those movies you forget 5 minutes after seeing. Out of a 1 out of 10 rating, I give this a 4. Unfortunately, it's not a horrible movie, but it's not a very good movie either. It's definitely a movie that I wouldn't watch a second time around. And there you go. Anyways, if you've seen the movie, tell me your comments, your thoughts, and leave some comments below. All right, take care.